What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. In today's video, I wanted to demonstrate to you guys the reason that size matters for players within Madden. And this is something that I've done a video on in the past that was not scientific in any way. But in today's video, I feel like we have a more scientific approach to this. And I'm going to dispel an argument that I had with a friend a long time ago, which was that giving 80 trucking to Christian McCaffrey is unrealistic and shouldn't happen. I completely disagree personally with that statement, and I want to prove to you guys why in today's video. So whenever we actually look at these two running backs, they are fundamentally different players. Derrick Henry is 6'3", 247 pounds. I believe he is the biggest running back in the entire league, whereas Christian McCaffrey is 5'11", 205. Maybe one of, if not the smallest running backs in the leagues. I don't believe that he is maybe the smallest running back, but he is definitely down there as one of the smallest running backs within the league. And he is not necessarily known for running people over like Derrick Henry. However, my argument is that Christian McCaffrey is very strong for his size, and he does break a lot of tackles, and he does run people over whenever they are his size or around his size, and therefore he should have a reasonable trucking rating and a reasonable strength rating. However, the EA developers and those that make the ratings within the game don't seem to understand how their own system works. And if you were to argue that giving 80 trucking to Christian McCaffrey and giving 80 trucking to Derrick Henry were the same thing, I'm going to prove in today's video that that is incorrect. So my theory essentially is that the size of the player factors more into trucking and things of that nature than you might, initially think off the bat. Just giving a player 80 trucking does not necessarily mean that they're going to be able to truck. 80 trucking, in my theory, for a small guy like Christian McCaffrey is going to give him a slight bit better ability to truck, but it's not going to really make him effective at trucking. You could give Christian McCaffrey or a small running back like Christian McCaffrey 90 trucking or 99 trucking, and they're not going to successfully truck defenders on that regular of a basis because they're simply too small, and their size is factored into the game and is not going to allow them to do that. But you could give a giant running back like Derrick Henry that trucking, and he could run over pretty much anybody in the game because he is at their size or around their size. I mean, he's even almost the size of offensive and defensive linemen in some cases. So what we did here today was we went in and gave them every major stat the exact same. So they've both got 90 speed, 80 strength, 90 agility, 90 acceleration, awareness, break tackle, 80 trucking for both of them, 90 change of direction, ball carrier vision, stiff arm, spin move, juke move, carrying, both 80 catching, both 81 short route running. I didn't pay attention to their medium deep route running and things like that, but I did pay attention to equal their jumping and equal the other important traits such as their stamina and things like that. But that's pretty much all that really matters in this argument is, are those ratings the same? So their stamina is the same, their injury is the same, but all of their kick return abilities, their blocking abilities, we're ignoring those things here today because they're both equally low and they're not going to impact today's video at all. So starting off with Derrick Henry here, I want you guys to see that with 80 trucking, this is what you're going to get out of Derrick Henry holding the stick forward and trying to activate a truck on a regular basis. So this is Derrick Henry getting the handoff to the left side and breaking a couple of tackles, bouncing off of tackles because his size is factoring in and he's going to fall forward. Whenever he's tackled here, he's going to fall forward. Now, this isn't going to happen every single time, as it's not going to happen every single time with any running back. However, you can expect that as I truck with Derrick Henry, even though he only has 80 trucking, which is reasonably low for this game, he is still going to run players over, especially if they're a smaller size than him. You can see right here that he plows through a linebacker slash DB, I'm not sure exactly who that is, and a defensive lineman at the same time, and finally gets brought down sideways by a defensive lineman. He does not even get tackled backwards. Now keep in mind, these players have the exact same rating. So let me go ahead and run a couple more test examples with Derrick Henry to show you guys that he just doesn't really fall down all that easy. You guys can see there he shrugged off one tackle and then got tackled by the second man. Here he's going to fall forward, gets tackled forward, doesn't fall backwards. And I'm willing to bet on the very next play, the same thing's going to happen. I'm holding the truck stick forward, I fall forward, I gain a couple extra yards. Now, his trucks themselves have not been the most emphatic. Obviously, he only has 80 trucking, but you can see that he is having a ton of success falling forward, gaining extra yardage, and shrugging off tacklers. However, if we go ahead in here real quick and switch in Christian McCaffrey at running back so that he has all of these roles and we just put him in the same exact plays, you guys will notice a significant difference between the way that he is tackled and the way that he falls to the ground. So now with Christian McCaffrey in the backfield, let's try the same test. On the very first play, he can't even get a truck off successfully. Now, this might not be the perfect example, so we'll go ahead and run a couple more, but I go straight at this guy, I hold the truck stick towards him, and much opposite of what happened with Derrick Henry, he gets tackled essentially backwards. Now, he does fall to the side, so it's nice to see that he's not losing yardage per se, but on a lot of these runs with Christian McCaffrey, you'll see him get tackled straight backwards because his size just isn't there. So let's go ahead and try a couple more attempts. So right there, he tries to truck a player, but he gets a very realistic Christian McCaffrey type of a truck. This is about what you can expect from a Christian McCaffrey against a player of equal or greater size. He's going to attempt to run into that player, but he's going to get stood up and put backwards. He's not going to fall forwards. Let's go ahead and run a couple more examples with Christian McCaffrey. There we go. We do fall forward on that one slightly. You could see at the beginning of that one that we started to get carried backwards. Let's go ahead and run another one. Oh, he does break a nice tackle there with a stiff arm. I didn't even stiff arm, so it's interesting to see that he did get a stiff arm there on that one. Right there, kind of gets tackled backwards, doesn't really fall forward for any extra yardage. So far, I have yet to actually get a truck stick with him, which to me is very telling of what's happening with this player's size. If I have 80 trucking and I can successfully truck with one player and not another, then that's a big difference. It took finally getting into the open field with 10 yards of momentum to actually get a truck stick off with Christian McCaffrey. So to this point, we really have not seen much trucking capability from Christian McCaffrey at all. We haven't even seen him falling forward in the same manner that we see out of Derrick Henry. It takes getting into the open field to even be able to trigger a truck animation with a player the size of Christian McCaffrey. Those truck animations are not very powerful, and you have a very low chance of actually breaking a tackle. And the huge difference here is the size of the players. That's the only factor that is different here between these two players. Right there is a perfect example of what you will never see with a player the size of Derrick Henry, but you will see very often with the size of a player of a Christian McCaffrey. And this is why I think that people need to understand that a rating like 80 trucking for Christian McCaffrey is way different than a rating like 80 trucking for Derrick Henry. So right there, we get tackled backwards trying to truck a safety. Any player, if they had 80 trucking and it was the same for every single player, should reasonably be expected to fall forward in this scenario, and he just simply does not. And that's why I'm saying that it's important to understand that ratings affect players different within the game of Madden, especially your strength and your trucking rating and things like that. Those are dependent on the player's size. So, as I feel that I have successfully shown in today's video by giving all of these players the same ratings, and the only really difference between these two players being their size, I really feel like giving a higher trucking rating to a smaller player that is successfully able to break tackles from time to time and truck players that are around his same size and things of that nature is not such a bad thing. I would give Christian McCaffrey a pretty decent trucking rating, because you could give Christian McCaffrey, like I'm showing you right here, 80 trucking, and he's not really really ever going to be able to truck players. He has to be going up against somebody pretty much the same size as him, or in an advantageous situation where he has 10 yards of momentum and the other player is on their back heels. So the rating of 80 trucking is totally different between Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry, for example, and it applies the same way to so many different players within the game. It applies the same way to every player within the game. You could take any big player and give them a decent trucking rating, and they will perform at a significantly higher rating when you're holding the stick forward and trying to create a truck animation than a player that is smaller. So let's go ahead and finish up this video by taking a look at one of my favorite developmental type prospects that you can pick up within the game, and that is running back Bo Scarborough right here. And I want to show you guys on the very first play that I run with Bo Scarborough, I crack through a gap, and yeah, I have an advantage on this guy, and there's no doubt that I should be able to try to truck this guy, but I truck this guy into oblivion and fall forward for 3 to 4 yards. And I want to show you guys real quick all of Bo Scarborough's amazing stats that he has as a player. Bo Scarborough is simply 6'1", 232 pounds, so he's much closer to that Derrick Henry size of 6'3", 247 than he is that Christian McCaffrey size, 5'11", 205. Whenever you start to get up into that 230 range is really when you start to see running backs be able to truck and things like that without really any great ratings or anything like that. I mean, I didn't change anything about Bo Scarborough except for evening his trucking to 80. He's only got 88 speed, only has 78 strength, which is lower than both McCaffrey and Derrick Henry in this test. Certainly has lower in pretty much every other category: agility, awareness, break tackle, change of direction, ball carrier vision, stiff arm. Everything that you could possibly imagine is going to be lower for Bo Scarborough, considering he's a 65 overall. However, whenever we go into this test and I show you guys multiple times that Bo Scarborough is probably going to have more similar success to Derrick Henry moving the ball forward and falling forward and things of that nature than Christian McCaffrey is, I think that lends a little bit more weight to the argument that I'm putting out here. You can see he's bouncing off of tackles in a way that Christian McCaffrey doesn't. Now, keep in mind, Christian McCaffrey has better ratings in every category than Bo Scarborough, and we never once saw Christian McCaffrey bounce off 2 tackles to be tackled by a third guy like we saw here with Bo Scarborough and Derrick Henry. That is truly the difference that size, meaning height and weight, is going to impact on the game. So you want to be on the lookout for players that have greater size. Having better height and weight absolutely factors into the game, but my main point here is to dispel this myth that you can't give small guys like higher trucking or things like that, and that they have to have like 50 trucking, because Christian McCaffrey does hit people, and he's not afraid to hit people, and he's not afraid to try to run somebody over even if they're bigger than him. He's not going to be super successful at it, but the game has a system in place to make sure that that doesn't happen to begin with. Again, you could probably give Christian McCaffrey 90 trucking, and he's not going to consistently be able to truck an opponent. Let's take another look at Bo Scarborough here, bouncing out to the outside. I've already gotten like 3 or 4 truck animations with this guy. I think I got one, maybe 2 with Christian McCaffrey in the entire time that we were utilizing him, with the same ratings as Derrick Henry and better ratings than Bo Scarborough right here. The only difference is the size of these players, the height and the weight, and that is what we have to be taking into account when we're considering what ratings we're giving players within the game. And the unfortunate thing is we really don't have too much of a breakdown of everything that height and weight actually impacts whenever we're talking about ratings at every single position. However, I do simply want you guys to remember that the height and weight, the size of a player, does matter significantly within Madden. Here's a great example of a linebacker slash safety almost getting us in the backfield, and Bo Scarborough having no trouble trucking this player forward. And I'm not even going to cut right here so you guys can see I'm not doing anything funky. I'm going to go straight to the depth chart while I continue talking so I can show you guys we're using 65 overall Bo Scarborough Scarborough, who has 80 trucking, who has 78 strength, who has no ratings anywhere near what I gave Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry. It is all about size within the game, especially at the running back position. And if you ever find yourself with a smaller running back like a Christian McCaffrey or maybe a Travis Etienne or something like that, that, you know, you keep upgrading them, keep upgrading them, keep upgrading them, and they still can't break tackles, it's because they just simply don't have the size to be able to do it, to be able to factor into the game. You want a guy that has a Derrick Henry or a Bo Scarborough type of size. You're looking for that 230-pound range. I think 225 and up, you start to notice a difference, but really, you're looking for probably over 6 foot tall and closer to that 230 and above range at the running back position. Hopefully this was a more scientific test for you guys, and hopefully this will help win my argument about Christian McCaffrey deserving at least a higher trucking rating than the game actually gives him. So, you know, with that being said, hopefully you guys at least found this video entertaining. If not, found it informative as a topic of discussion. If you did, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. A lot of you guys that watch my videos are not subscribed. I'm expecting you guys to hit that subscribe button and continue to grow this community, and comment down below. As always, I'll see you guys in the next one, and I hope you have a good one.